Good morning from Hamden, Maine. I'm out here with Bones, my spiritual guide. He's the when people say, I am spiritual, not religious. That's what people say. This is what they're talking about. I am spiritual, not religious. Meaning that they don't know who Jesus is. Well, it's about time for you people to find out who Jesus Christ is. Jesus Christ is the firstborn of the dead. Bones here is a spirit. You can see a skeleton just like the skeleton that's on every human on this planet. You look something like this. Can't really tell if you're a male or female from this angle. From the hips you can. See, the hips are different for male and female. Bone structure, about the same. So this is Bones. We're out here. Hi guys. What would you like to say, Bones? I'd like to tell them about Ryan. Ryan's a pretty cool guy. Ryan's the one that puts all these reels together. No one seems to like him. Even my spiritual people, the ones that are like, let's talk about rainbows and stones and unicorns and ponies and everything that's happy and sit around in a circle. What? Bones, that's feminine. That's weak stuff. That's what women do. Us men, we like to work out. Why are you talking like that, Bones? That's my voice. I've been up since 5 o'clock in the morning. When you live with 4 dogs and you have 4 dogs, then you get up when the dogs want to eat. And the birds. You hear the birds all around? Birds wake me up every morning. Every morning I wake up. We come out here. We talk to Bones. No one bothers us. No one likes anything. No one says anything. No one does anything. For all you spiritual people out there, you don't do a fucking thing. All you religious people, what do? You're praying to the Bible that I'm talking about. You're praying to the God that I'm talking about. You're praying to the Spirit that I'm talking about. You know, are you even praying at all? You know, let's go over some labels in the country because Americans like to label everything. The atheist people who don't believe in anything. These are the highly educated people with, you know, fake degrees and ego ignorance. You know, these are the people that talk, that all they do is talk and they try to discredit everything and they're rude and they're ignorant and they have low emotional intelligence. You know, most of the males are narcissistic men. I won't name any names, just look up the characteristics of a narcissistic male and then look at the leadership team of the United States government, the males. How many of them can you list under that narcissistic male label? Quite a few of them. Now, if you want to look at the feminine, the female qualities, you can look at those also, because look at the characteristics of the female leaders. And what do you see in the government? I see a lot of narcissistic male tendencies from the females. The I don't back down from males. Really? Okay. You also don't back down from, I guess, doing your job, because the ratings in Maine for the Maine governor is awful. Awful. There's no trust. When there's no trust in the leadership team, why should the people do anything? The only people that care about the government are the ones that work in the government. The only people that care about the politics are the people that are politicians, that want the elect me, let me put up my road sign for egocentric. Let me put up my I can make a difference, yet the people get in there, move up in politics, and do nothing else. You know, there was this Jeffries guy. What is your job? I see you on social media running your mouth, toxicity. I send you messages, you don't respond. News Center Maine, same exact thing, toxicity. You want to talk about drama, entertainment tonight? That's all it is. It's modern day 90210, just wrapped up pretty in a anchor of a newscaster, WABI TV5, you know, WLBZ TV2, you know, Fox 22 Bangor. 22 equals Ryan in numerology. See, 11 in numerology means master builder. 11 plus 11, well, 11 equals Jesus Christ. I am the water, I am the flame, both 11 letters. 11 plus 11. 11 equals master builder in numerology. 22 equals Ryan in numerology, master builder, name meaning king. 22 plus 11 equals 33. Jesus Christ, the age that he was killed, murdered by religious people, regardless whoever it was. Pontiff Pilate said, what is truth? Pope Leo, what is truth? I'm asking you, what is truth? John 8:32, what is truth? I'm asking you, Truth Social owner, what is truth? What is censorship? What is the First Amendment? Why do we even have a constitution when we have dictators running the government? I'm not talking about one, I'm talking about an entire administration. This administration is the most disrespectful public speaking I have ever seen in the history of my 52 years on this earth. Unbelievable levels of disrespect. Did you people not learn how to speak to people with respect? You're giving Americans the bad name. That's why other countries look at America and say, holy shit, I don't want to be like an American. American are what? What's the average obesity in America? 40%? 50%? 1 out of 2 people is obese. Why? America is the highest education that's ever been in the world for any generation. So why are you people obese? Why is people codependent on the pharmaceutical market? Realize that the pharmaceutical market and the physicians, I'm not talking about healthcare. The healthcare market in America is worth $7.7 trillion. $7.7 trillion. Think about that. The healthcare market in America is worth $7.7 trillion. The pharmaceutical market globally is worth $1.7 trillion and expected to increase by 2030 to $2.3 trillion. What's that going to do? That's direct cause and effect. That's you build the problem, you create the problem, you create the solution. That right there is Operation Warp Speed Donald Trump. You create the problem. Look back in 2014 when Moderna received $450,000 to fuck around and find out what messenger RNA could do through the United Nations, a so-called secular organization. Secular means that they don't believe in religion, yet they have the god of destruction. The god of destruction, Shiva, the god of destruction outside the United Nations headquarters in Geneva, Switzerland. Now, what is the odds that that is just a coincidence? What are the odds that the United Nations in New York has the beast? They have a statue outside that looks a lot like the Revelation, mocking Revelation, meaning you're secular, you're supposed to be business people, but you mock religion now. Okay, so you mock religion now. You follow Greek mythology for some reason. The rod of Sisyphus is the World Health Organization's logo. The World Health Organization is owned by the United Nations. The United Nations is a secular business organization with 192 charters around the world. The United States is not going to be one of them much longer. Take away the United States, United Nations folds because they have no money. The United States pays for everything. 12.8 million physicians in this world. 12.8. If you're a physician out there, Google how many physicians are in the world. That's all I want you to do. 12.8 million worldwide. This is a direct message, Bible message for every physician on this planet. Google Revelation 12:8. And then Google, who is the ancient serpent of the Bible? The ancient serpent of the Bible is Satan. Congratulations, you are Satan's angels. Mark 2:17 specifically says that Jesus is coming not to call on the physicians. The physicians know who they are. They know who they identify with. They know that the majority of the physicians are labeled themselves as agnostic or atheist, meaning that they don't believe. All agnostic means is your ego is saying, if you prove that God is real, then I'll believe you. But these people have such large egos that are their ego is as large as their wallet. You take away science, you take away money from science, and there's no such thing as science anymore. Because science doesn't create anything. Science just observes. Science observes the natural world and then takes it apart and fucks around and finds out that they put shit together wrong. And then they call it RNA, the messenger RNA, ribose sugar. Well, sugar is found in pretty much everything. So if half of DNA is RNA, then if you're using sugar, then why not just drink a fucking Coke and shut the fuck up? See, I'm not a scientist. I don't have degrees in whatever you have degrees in. I have a degree in business administration from Husson University, Go Eagles, and I have 10 years in pharmaceutical. I was a trainer. I trained these so-called smart physicians on mental health drugs, on Lexapro. You know, how do you like me now, bitch? How do you like me now? I also trained physicians on cardiovascular drugs, you know, on Actos, diabetes. Type 2 diabetes is 100% reversible. Ask your doctor if they're ethical and honest, they will tell you. They don't require the pharmaceuticals. All it requires is you doing the fucking work. You standing in front of a mirror and say, I lived. I'm awesome. I did this to my body. I ate this food. I took these pills. I did this to my body. And then you look in that mirror and you say, you look back in that mirror and you say, you know what? What happens? What's my reflection? Let's reverse it. D-E-V-I-L-I. I am the devil. I am the devil. 1 John 4:3. Every spirit that does not confess that Jesus Christ has come to this earth and is fully man and fully God is not from God. This is the spirit of the Antichrist. And the Antichrist spirit is in the world. It's the Antichrist spirit is the one that's censoring me right now on every single social media platform. So all these spirits that are censoring me and you guys think that you're doing the right thing, you're not. So TikTok, it is what it is. You know, I'm not looking for friends. There's 8 billion people on this planet. There's been 109 billion people that have walked on this planet. You know the percentage of them that died, that are eternally separated from God? Because that's what happens. You're eternally separated from God when you die. If you don't accept that his son, Jesus Christ, sacrificed for you, game over, motherfucker. You know, the Bible has been out for how long? 2,700 years the Bible is. 2,700 years, this magic book. It's not a fucking religion, it's a magic book. It's a personal relationship with Jesus Christ, the second Godhead of the Trinity, the Son, the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit is allowing what you see now. See, when you are born again, you receive the Holy Spirit. That's a present. You receive bones. Bones is what you receive. Bones is the alpha spirit of this planet. Bones loves to smoke weed because the cannabinoid system is a system of your body. It was discovered in Israel in 1960. 1960. This whole corruption thing is just it's entertainment. It's like watching Hollywood corruption, Hollywood sex scandals being played out in the government, because that's what it is. That's what real life is. This is real life. What you're seeing with the Epstein fallout between Israel and the United States is just going to get worse, because there's a lot of people implicated in this. There's a lot of people that did stuff wrong, that they don't think they did stuff wrong, because narcissistic men they have very low emotional intelligence, they have very low empathy, they have very low self-control. They're all about gimme, 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 it's mine, mine, mine. If I can't have it, I'm gonna take it. Isn't that right, Donald? Vibes Cannabis, Bangor, Maine, the actual GOAT, the greatest of all time, where you can get 10 pre-rolls for $48. I am not a paid sponsor. I'm probably their #1 client, though. I drop about $500 a month on medical marijuana. I have CRPS, most painful disease known to man with no cure. Fuck you, physicians. You're the ones that cause it, cause and effect. I've had a 2-level lumbar fusion. I've had a spinal cord stimulator. I used to take 9 pharmaceuticals per day. I sold pharmaceuticals for 10 years. So I was compensated $1 million by the pharmaceutical industry. Thank you very much. And then that same fucking industry told me that your services are no longer needed after you had your fusion and tried to come back from family medical leave. 2 months later, they fucking cut me. Top sales rep. Relocated to Florida for them to have my territory, extend my career, because I thought I was valuable to the company. And that right there, Americans told me that there's no such thing as loyalty in business. No such thing. You know, they're teaching these new people that graduate with MBAs now that the average person is supposed to stay in their job for 2 years. 2 years. So there's no such thing as loyalty anymore, because look at all the relationships in the world. Look at all the marriages. 50%, you know, people are just like, fuck it, I'll just leave and find something else. You know, no loyalty. No one has loyalty. Very few people have loyalty. My grandparents on both sides were married for 40 years and 50 years. So I was married for 15 years, you know. Was it my fault that I'm divorced? Maybe, you know, but it was I had to make a decision. And the decision was stay on pharmaceuticals and continue my sedentary lifestyle where I live with a woman that's not challenging me. I live with a woman that is just passive, non-believer. See, non-believing women just let people do whatever the fuck they want, just as long as they're getting money and getting food and getting whatever they want, then they don't care because you're not challenging them, so why should they become their higher self? So I started on pharmaceuticals. And I stopped on pharmaceuticals and went strictly to medical marijuana. Had a prescription from my doctor, and when I started smoking weed, as anyone can tell you, when you first start smoking weed, it's an adventure. It's a whole new world, you know, a whole new world, like that Disney movie they'll say. And it is a whole new world. And you meet some interesting people. You meet some people that are, you know, weed smokers and pot smokers and like to get high. And you do some crazy things because you're high. You know, let's face it. You know, weed affects the brain. That's why most people can't do it. You know, number one cause of disability in the world is mental health awareness. You know, it's mental health. So if people don't understand their own body, can't go to someone else. Someone else can't teach you about your own body. They can't do it. You have to learn by yourself. You stand in front of a mirror, you take your shirt off, you look at yourself. You did that. So I'm talking to all these adults in the world. You created your image, your reflection. Remember that mirrors only reflect light. So if a mirror only reflects light, you're self-aware, you have emotional intelligence, majority of you are educated. So what is your excuse? What is your excuse when you look in the mirror and you see your reflection looking back at you and you're like, I love you, you're beautiful, you know, you can do this, you're strong. You know, this is called mirror psychology, what I'm doing right now. I'm looking at my reflection. I'm looking at my reflection and realizing the duality, realizing that I lived, but if I reverse that, it spells devil I. You know, that is not scary. If that's scary, then why does NASA have, say, T minus? Do you ever think about that? NASA T minus? You add the T to NASA and you rearrange the letters and it spells Satan. Is the American government Satan? You know, NASA in Hebrew translation is to deceive. You know, why do Americans have 1,800 satellites when other countries only have like 150? You know, why does America have to have everything first and build it wrong? That's narcissistic men. Where are these narcissistic men? How come they're not educated on mirror psychology? How come they're not educated on mental health? Why are they codependent on pharmaceuticals? Why are they codependent on other people? Because they're stupid. They're selfish. You know, they think that they are God. They don't give a shit that God created this planet. They don't give a shit that a son sacrificed for them. They do not give a shit. These are the majority of the people out here. You know, I'm saying this, I live in the least religious state in the country. That's a fact. Google it. Is Maine the least religious state in the country? It'll come back. Also Google, is Maine the fattest state in New England? Yeah, it is. You know, so there's a direct correlation with faith in your body. You know, if a lot of people say that they have faith and a lot of people say that they're spiritual and, you know, whatever that means to them, but these same people are on 5, 6, 7 drugs a day. These same people are taking these now GLP-1s. That was a diabetic medication, but they're not diabetic. See, science changes things. You know, Viagra was first approved as a heart medicine. The people didn't want to give it back because guys were getting erections and they liked it. So now look at it. You know, GLP-1s, same exact thing. GLP-1 was first approved for diabetes. As a Takeda pharmaceutical sales rep that had Actos, the leader, you know, Actos made $3 billion a year, was the #1 oral anti-diabetic for many years. You know, when the GLP-1s came out, us Takeda reps, we laughed. We laughed at the reps and said, that must be embarrassing for you. You know, you're selling an injection, because the hardest job as a diabetic rep is to convince a patient to take a shot. You know, when you're type 1 diabetic, you're insulin dependent. Now they've made these fucking pumps and all this stuff that, you know, there's people that need it, otherwise they die. But see, type 2 diabetics, you're just lazy. You know, you don't want to do the work. You know, if you look at the body, the physique of a type 1 diabetic, a type 1 diabetic is typically thin. You know, so 95% of the type 2 diabetics, if you watch that show, The Biggest Loser, that's you. Look in the mirror. I'm talking to any human on this planet. Doesn't matter your race, doesn't matter your nationality, doesn't matter where you're born. You all have one body. You all have one body, and you're all responsible for what you put in that body. You know, this is why there's an education system. Apparently nutrition is not taught. You know, see, this is the problem in America, and this is the problem that I found with my university degree. You have to pay to learn. So if I had to pay to learn about business administration for half the shit that I'm never gonna, you know, give a fuck about, and realize that basic business is, you know, you make something, you sell it for a good price. You know, the reason for a business is to make something that's beneficial to someone for a reasonable price. Reasonable price. You know, get the fuck out of Ukraine for lithium. How many cell phones are on the planet? There's enough cell phones on the planet. You know, for a country that's the size of Texas, corruption, political corruption. You know, Putin, Russian identifies as Orthodox Christian. I'm Christian. There's 2.4 billion Christians on this planet. There's 2 billion Muslims on this planet. Muslims at least believe that Jesus Christ was a messenger. Muslims believe that there is a second coming. So now we take that 2.4 billion, add it with a 2, that's 4.4 billion people on this planet out of what, 8 billion? So Google Matthew 4:4. Just Google that. And then all you non-believers, Google 2 Corinthians 4:4. 2 Corinthians 4:4 says the God of this world has blinded the minds. So the non-identifying people, the people that say, that just don't identify, that just don't give a fuck, I'm talking to you people. You know, look at my profile, look at what it says on those Bible verses. Those are there for a reason for you. That's a gift. What you're seeing is a gift. Consider this a gift. This is a gift. We are at 22 minutes and 36 seconds. Google Matthew 22:36. This is a gift. I believe in the Bible. I believe in the 66 books of the Bible. I believe that, you know, the 66 books, I am 6'6", so that's the reason I believe that. I was born in 1973, so the Catholicism one, you know, intelligent design, I was born in 1973, synchronicity, intelligent design, new international version, 1973. I mean, what do you people do in the Vatican City? Do you sit there and just play with fiddle each other in your robes, in your hats? You know, do you guys have rehearsal for your song and dance? You know, I figured out that Catholicism was wrong at 7 years old when my mom was a Catholic and my brother was a confirmed Catholic. And they asked me to do it, and I'm like, you guys are fucking crazy. Why do you disrespect Matthew 23:9? Priest looked at me and said, well, you have to understand, when you come to this church, I am the representation of the Bible, the church. I am as close to Jesus as you're going to get. And I'm like, dude, you're mistaken. But the guy bought me a PlayStation for my Christmas, for my Christmas, because we didn't have anything, and they felt bad. So he bought me a Sony CD player and 2 CDs. 2 CDs were Metallica, Enter Sandman, and Guns N' Roses, Use Your Illusion 1 and 2. I graduated high school in 1991. Remember that? That's when Judgment Day came out, Terminator. I was 11 years old when the Terminator came out. So imagine growing up in this world with Pennywise, you know, in Maine. You know, I have Pennywise tattooed on my, he's tattooed on me. I wear the energies of my tattoos, just like anyone. Any tattoos a person get, you wear that energy. So go ahead, motherfucker, put dark stuff on there, and you're gonna face your mental health demons. They're gonna come after you, because if you don't believe in Jesus, then you're not a warrior of Christ. You're just a warrior of darkness. And warriors of darkness, tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. Okay, we're gonna keep this under 25 minutes. So I just wanted to say good morning, and I haven't even smoked any weed this morning. I just got up, felt good, fed the dogs, put the dogs out, came out here and talked to you fine people. So I appreciate if one person likes this. You know, I asked Instagram yesterday one person to like it. I couldn't get one. So I'm asking these dark people that identify as a witch, warlock, whatever you identify as, you know, like this, give me a show of faith. You know, I'm a reasonable guy, so, you know, I'm a reasonable guy and I get along with pretty much anyone. So if you're honest with me, then I got no problem with you. You lie to me, we've got an issue, and you're not gonna like it. You lie to me, the Holy Spirit's coming after you. Peace.